Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So I had some requests to do kind of like an intro video for newbies, the types of things you might want to do when you first install Linux Mint. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the reason I like Linux Mint over other distros is, for me, it is already essentially set up like the workflow I like. In other words, it's kind of set up sort of like a Windows type platform. Then I have a taskbar at the bottom. I have access to what I might call a quick launch bar. I can easily pull up multiple instances of a browser without, and I hear this all the time, oh, push the middle button. Yeah, you know what? I have a lot of mice in my office. Like this one has a middle button. I have a lot of mice that don't have a middle button. Okay, so telling me to push the middle button on a panel to open a new window is not helpful because I don't always have a middle button. But if I have a quick launch bar, a simple left click button will open as many instances as the browser I want. So that's why I use them. The menu is set up already very much like how I like to use it. I can very quickly navigate through it. So basically Linux Mint Cinnamon, and on top of all that, it works. I mean, it just really works really well out of the box. So that's what we're going to look at today is I have here a Linux Mint Cinnamon build that I simply install this right out of the VirtualBox. So we're going to look at, basically today we're going to look at just how to make this your own. Now the cool thing about this is I wouldn't really have to do a lot of these things. Like, unlike Fedora, where you really do have to do a lot of things before you can get the system, reasonably usable. Linux Mint's already reasonably usable, but you still want to make it your own. And that's one of the greatest things on Linux is since Windows Vista, you stopped having the ability to really customize things. Sure, you can put your own desktop wallpaper there. But as far as the styles and the colors and the themes, they've been slowly whittling that out. You still had some coloration that you could change, but even now with Windows 10, you're pretty much stuck with nothing.
Hi peoples, use Linux Mint, it rocks.
And the kitty agrees, use Linux Mint, it rocks. But back with Linux, we still have that full customizability. And if you really, 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 really want your computer to look completely custom, you got the ability. You got it. If you just want it to be just a standard modern flat UI design like other Windows computers and other systems are doing, you got that too. So you really have all the best of the worlds. So what we're going to do today is, first, we're going to look at the desktop. So there's a lot of settings that you can do on the desktop. So the first thing is maybe you want to change your background. So we have this nice Linux Mint background. Now, a lot of the desktop settings you can actually change just by right-clicking anywhere on the desktop. So desk lits, changing your desktop backgrounds. We have our desktop settings, and we have some more settings down here. So first, let's have a look actually at our desk lits. These essentially would be widgets. Some of these work, some of these don't. Since Linux Mint 18, more of them are supposed to work than not, but you never really know. So you have these three by default. You have a launcher, which basically will give you essentially like a docked panel somewhere. You have a digital photo frame, which will scroll through some photos that you give it. And then we have a clock, which you can use to simply add a clock onto your desktop. So we'll go ahead and add a little digital clock right under my picture here. Now, most of these guys, you can right-click them, and there's a menu up here so you can configure it. So in this case, you can change the font size, you can change the font color, and you can use a custom date size if you want to. Let's go ahead and put this at 30 maybe. There you go. So now we have a little clock that's just underneath our picture there. So if you just need a little bit bigger clock on your desktop to keep an eye on things, you got it. You can also go online. Now, warning, some of the ones from online don't work quite as well as you'd hope, but in theory, most of them should. I know the Weather Underground desklet works, although it's a little ugly for me. I could not get the basic primary weather one to work. You can also just do searches there. You can see that you are very limited by the amount of things, but any of these you want to install, you can just click on the box over here and click the install or update, and this is going to install them. So come back over here. Now, some of these may cause some system instability, so the system monitor does. So if you add this system monitor to your desktop, and performance seems to be suffering, go ahead and disable this, and you can see if that helps. So here's your system resource monitor. Also, I wanted to just have a look at this one here. I've not used this one. So this is essentially like our clock. We just have the date functionality there as well. So this one here, actually, it looks like you style it with CSS almost. And it's not exactly CSS, but it looks pretty close. So how do you remove one of these? Well, you can actually come into this menu over here, the desklet menu. You can hit the Remove from Desktop button, or you can right-click and remove it like that. We'll go ahead and just keep the clock there for now. The next thing down the list is changing your desktop background. So when you pull this up, you do have access to a lot of different Linux Mint backgrounds. Now, you can see that this is one of those desktops where you just click on it and it will give you the preview. It'll change it automatically. We do have a lot of really beautiful desktops that come pre-installed. So if you're just looking for a nice desktop background, there's some nature scenes. We might even find some other more city type scenes, things like that. So this is actually a nice one here. So you can see what you have. Now, if you do want to do your own theme, this guy here is your pictures folder, but you can come down here, add the plus down on the bottom. Oop, excuse me, not the minus. I actually accidentally minused the, the pictures folder. We can add it back. So if you go into your desktop here, and I just grabbed some pictures from here, so come down here to pictures. So now you can add your own custom pictures from any file location on the computer just by doing that. So here's a nice four corners picture there from Four Corners. I'm going to go back to the giant Picasso painting, which this is in the middle of Goodland, Kansas here, the giant Picasso painting. So for the cuteness of this, you know, here's a Pizza Hut and here's a water tower. So that's a big painting. All right. So the next thing that we might want to do, let's go ahead and right click. Let's look at the desktop settings. This will pull up your panel from your settings panel. So if you go into your system settings and go into desktop, this will give you the ability to add or remove the computer icon. We're going to add that because I'm going to use it later on. You can add the home, you can add the trash, your mounted volumes, and your network. So you can do any of those that you want. Now the next area you might want to adjust, and the one that I do since Linux Mint 18, they've added a few features that I'm not a big fan of, but you can disable them. So if you come down here to this menu that says desktop, you can change the icon sizes. I like turning off this auto arrange because I want my desktop icons to go in places where I want them to be. I don't want the computer to sit there and go, well, I think that icon should be over here. It doesn't usually cause... I'm not sure why it's snapping in that way. Okay, there was just something weird with that network folder. I don't know why. Toggling it off and toggling it back on worked. I have never in my life seen that problem. But hey, every now and again, we encounter situations like that. And that's the new features that they added. I do not like this new feature. I hate auto-aligning icons. I have no idea who would use them or why. Aligning to grid is okay. But it's kind of like going backwards. I've never actually encountered those issues. Anyway, that is your desktop. Okay, so to adjust your panel settings, we're going to come down to the panel, right-click on the panel down here, and then you're going to click on the toggle button there, and that will toggle your panel. You'll see it'll be a coloration down here change. That means that it is now you can now drag things around. Now, what I like to do is I like to drag the desktop icon, or the show desktop icon, all the way over to the bottom right corner, because that's one of the features that I really like in Windows, is that I can throw the mouse in the bottom corner of the screen, click the button, and it will minimize all the windows, because I work off the desktop a lot. So while we're in this mode, there's some other things. So like, I don't ever use the user icon, so I'm going to right click, I'm going to remove that applet. And then if you want to add any other functionality, you can right click this and hit the add applets to the panel. And sort of like the widgets, the applets will enable you to add things like, maybe if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, you can add a panel for that. You can add your network items, maybe some notifications things. There's separators you can add. a variety of different things that you can add to the panel, including trash icons, system trays. There's also, just like your desklets, there are other available applets online that you can come in here. So you can add weather applets, a variety of different things. So just have a look at what types of things you want to use, and then you can extend your panel that way. Now there are a few other settings, and I rarely adjust the panel settings, but you can adjust the panel settings here. So you can either show or hide it. You can use a custom panel size. Oftentimes when I'm recording video and I try and toggle this button, Cinnamon sometimes crashes, so I'm not going to do that. I've never had it crash otherwise, but we can also add another panel. So if you do want more panels than just this one, you can click this and add a new panel as well. So we're going to come down here, right click, and click on the panel edit mode again, and now our panel edit mode is turned off. So the next thing you might want to do is you might want to change around your themes. And so changing around your themes, generally I'll do this right from inside the settings. So click on your settings panel, and we have the ability to change our themes inside your theme panel. So here you can adjust your window borders just by clicking on the border item that you want. Now I do not like the Linux Mint icons at all, so I either go with GNOME usually. I just like the rounded full color icons that you get. I just think that those are a lot nicer looking than the other ones. So here's maybe some Linux Mint. I don't like the darker one. Let's go with that one there, a little bit lighter. Then we have our mouse pointers, and then you also have a variety of different, of your different general overall themes. So you can pick any one of these given themes. Some of these will change your icons around, some of them just your colors. So there's a variety of different theme types that you can pick from in here. So some of these are more skeuomorphic, some of these are more flat, so just kind of pick what you want. And if you do want to go online and grab some other themes, you can hit the Add Remove Desktop Themes. Here's the available themes, or you can go online and find a variety of different themes over here as well. So you can grab a whole lot of them. And actually, let's see, I thought I just saw the one I use on my main computer here. It's like Mint Glass, I believe it's called. It's out here somewhere. There you go, Mint Glass. This is one of the ones that I use for my my main production computer. So click on that, and then just find Mint Glass in your list. Apply that theme, and then you'll see that this looks like my other main computer. So that way you can change your themes, you can change your icons, you can change your various colors. Now the next thing is installing fonts. This is one you don't usually find, but it's very helpful. So what I did here is I just kind of threw two fonts right on the desktop here, just to show you how these work. So I'm just going to go ahead and extract these fonts over here. All right. So you'll see that it extracted the fonts across the top there. So one way you can install fonts is just double click on the font, hit install, and they should install. So you'll see here it says installed. So great, it installed nicely. So where does that install to? Well, that leads us to the second way that you can install fonts, is just manually copying the fonts into the folder they install to. So if you go into your home folder, and I already have those hidden, but you should see a default that looks sort of like this. If you hold Control and push H, that will show your hidden files. And if you come in here and you want to add fonts manually, then what you do is you can come in here and find the .local, share, and your font folder. So this here is where your fonts are actually going to be installed to if you just click on the install button. And it actually already went ahead and added these fonts in here earlier just as a quick test. I'm just going to go ahead and replace that. Okay, so this is where Linux Mint likes to store the fonts. Now I'll warn you that this is a weird place to store the fonts. Most Linux distros do not use this location, last I knew. Most of them use a .fonts folder, which you can manually create, And you'll see here that I already have extracted the other fonts into this folder. So I just kind of open these guys up, and then I extract these guys directly into my font folder here. And those will install it only for your current user. Now, if you have multiple different users and you'd like to install your fonts for multiple different users, then you need to actually install them into the system. So to do that, you want to go into your computer, File System, go down to User, USR, and then find your Share. Now, you cannot add the fonts directly to this folder because you are not operating as a root user. So what you need to do is find your font folder, right-click it, open as root down here at the bottom. You need to give it your root password. And now you can copy any fonts into this folder, and anything you copy into this folder will be available for all users on the system. Now again, you have to copy into this folder as root. This will make the fonts available to all systems. Now, as far as how Linux Mint handles fonts, there is a little error because they do install fonts in a weird place. .location share fonts is not what most systems are using, so if you download a font manager, it may not see your Linux Mint fonts that are installed by clicking the install button. So if you are manually installing fonts just for your local user, use the .fonts folder. That's going to be found by more of your font managers. So just keep that in mind. Of course, the last thing that you're going to want to do is you want to add some software. So come up here and click your software manager, enter your password, and this will take a moment to open up. But what's going to happen here when you do this is you will have a nice place where you can search and browse for software. So if you want to look for a web browser, come up here and do web browser, and you can see what the options are. Now, there's multiple ways of installing software. This is one of the repositories. This is like a GUI repository installer. This is the safest way to install software, especially if you are a new user. If you don't know exactly what you're doing, don't install software outside of these. You can also find from online deb packages. You can install those. You can install PPAs. You can install tarballs. I would not recommend doing that unless you know exactly what you're doing. But here we have Firefox, we have Chromium, Midori, Aurora, Reconq, NetSurf. So there's a variety of different web browsers you can choose from. You can also go back and just look at your basic categories. Maybe you want to look for games. You know, what type of games? There's some board games, real-time strategy games. There's a lot of different type of things that you can install on here just by looking around. You could also search up here for something. Now, of course, if you already know what packages you're looking for, you can just boot up a terminal and just install them this way. So I like installing Bluefish for my web development tools. So just kind of do that. And once you know what packages you want to use, the terminal's always the fastest way to do it. But if the terminal kind of frightens you or whatever else, you do have the ability to install with the GUI. Another software package that is out there, I don't believe it's installed by default, but another software package a lot of people like, it is actually, Synaptic Package Manager. Synaptic Package Manager is kind of like a mid-root. So here you can come over here and you can install software by searching for it over here. So if you kind of know what something is, you can just kind of click on the, just do a quick search, and you'll see all the packages show up. So if I want to install Chromium, so the downside is you do have to know which package it is. Now this should install any dependencies along with it. So if there's a dependency with this, it will install it. So click on the checkbox, push the apply button. It's going to tell you what's going to be installed. So there's really no other dependencies with that one. So now it's going ahead right now and installing the Chromium browser. So those are your different ways of installing software on the system. So with that, hopefully that has been helpful. If you're one of the people asking for a video like this and you want to see more things like this, or I missed something that you have a question on, let me know and we'll go ahead and do some of those. We can do some more of these guys. If you do like what we're doing here at Switch to Linux, you can check out switchtolinux.com/support to learn about how you can support us. Currently, we have a Patreon page set up, and we have Amazon links down below. But if you check out this page here at switchtolinux.com/support, you will find any current ways to support us. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.